I'm stopping them.
Yeah. Nirmala?
Yes, ma'am.
I think Mary's screen is still on. Dr. Mary Geetham, if you can please stop sharing your screen.
My screen is not on.
This is what is, yeah. Before we beginning, some general instructions to the participants. If you have any questions during the presentation, please ensure that you type them into the chat box. The MCs for the day will take it up for you. The feedback form will be posted in the chat box at the end of the session. Please ensure that it is filled on all 7 days to get your e-certificates. The audio from the host side is muted for all the participants. We request you not to unmute it. So let's start today's session. Good day and welcome to day 4 of the 7-day International Faculty Development Program on Leadership Excellence. The session for the day is on effective leadership during and post-pandemic. We wish to keep the participants informed that Mr. Tariq Abdulaziz has to be elsewhere on official duty and hence will not be joining us today. We have with us Mrs. Mavuru Durgashri, who will speak to us on the same topic. Madam, Thank you so much for accepting our invitation at such short notice. Now, let us begin today's session with a prayer. I request Ms. Rabia to recite the prayer. Rabia?
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, Rabia, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. Translation. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, all praise is to Allah, the Lord of the universe. Lord of the universe. The alone we worship, the alone we beseech for help. Guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed favor, nor of those who have gone astray. Amen. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rabia. I now request Mrs. Kalpana, Assistant Professor, Department of Corporate Secretaryship and Information Systems Management, to introduce the speaker to the participants.
Thank you, ma'am. Good day, one and all gathered here virtually for the fourth day International Faculty Development Program on Leadership Excellence, organized by the Department of Corporate Secretaryship and Information Systems Management in collaboration with Guru Coaching and Consultancy LLC Qatar. On behalf of the management, principal and the Department of Corporate Secretaryship and Information Systems Management, Justice Bashir Ahmed Syed College for Women, it's my great honor to welcome our eminent resource person, Mrs. Mauru Durga Shri, an international faculty trainer, a facilitator, and an educational consultant in Dubai. Mrs. Nirmala Guru, Guru Coaching and Consultancy, LLC Qatar, distinguished delegates, respected faculty of other universities, colleges, respected researchers, and my dear colleagues. This International Faculty Development Program, it's a witnessing event for effectiveness of leadership during the pandemic period. This distinguished person, today we have resource person, Mr. Mauru Durgashri, an internationally acclaimed faculty trainer, a facilitator, and an educational consultant based in Dubai. She has over 25 years of rich experience in educational field. She has lead schools in Dubai and Doha through launching a different educational boards and leadership programs, as well as inspections by respective governing bodies successfully. She is one of those pioneers in training the trainers in prestigious educational institutions and organizing leadership team workshops for students, parents, and teachers in the Middle East for the past 10 years. She also actually involves herself as a translator. She is a good in translating the learning jargons into easily understandable words. She is a community service provider and also a Toastmaster. We have with a multifaceted personality with the strength of learning, teaching, and communicating. We are very happy to welcome you, ma'am. I'm sure that you will feel enriched with the knowledge after completing of this session. We are extremely hopeful that the session is also going to be a great success like past 3 days. I welcome you all once again.
Sorry, ma'am, it was muted. I now invite the speaker of the day, Mrs. Mavuru Durgashri, to take over the session.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gayatri, and a very good afternoon, good evening to you all. My name is Durga. I'm very, very happy to hear such generous words in the introduction. I'll straight away jump into the topic and share with you my thoughts on what is it that we are looking at in terms of leadership during and after the pandemic, that is post-pandemic. I cannot even say that it is after pandemic, it is going to be post-pandemic, and the duration will last for us for quite some time. Ma'am, can I share the screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you can
Okay.
share the screen.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Now we're talking about the leadership, effective leadership during and post pandemic. First of all, let me thank you, Ms. Nirmala Guru, for extending the invitation to be a part of this week-long celebration of leadership excellence. I would also like to thank the organization committee of the Justice Bashir Ahmed Saeed College for Women Chennai, India, for providing this beautiful platform where there is so much of learning which is being shared. Now, what exactly is this leadership for us? Now, when we're talking about leadership, I would design it as pandemic leadership, because this pandemic leadership is more complex, more dynamic, and more independent for us in terms of giving our attention to public health, our economy, our social status, our time management, emotional quotient, environmental setting, cooperation, and technology. Now, why public health? Public health, it's not just me who's involved in it. There is everybody, the whole community which is involved in it. Economy, we have seen the downfalls and the up many a times, but there is a lot of companies, there are very many companies which are going through the slump period, and there are some which are surviving through this, and there are some who are excelling it. The social front, this is one area which has been drastically affected. We are social beings. Human beings are social. We need that kind of human touch to give us that security and a sense of belonging. That is something that we are really missing these days. I would also say that the time management, working from home has been a mammoth task now. There are 101 things, and I think we are working more than what is required. We're sometimes working more than what we think we should be working with. Not to mention about the emotional quotient, there is so much more that we are going through, and we see our environment also participating in it. There are places where, say, for example, I am in Doha right away now. There are small little kids who are stuck at home. They cannot go out during the daytime as the temperatures are soaring to 46. The same way, the monsoon which has set in India is not really allowing children to go out because you are scared. So this has its rippling effect on the psychology of the human and the expression of those emotions as well. When we're talking about the environmental setting, well, you're all dressed, you're going to the office, you went there, and there is all a formal environment, formal setting, where you're kind of creating your environment for the brain to work. But working from home is a different dialogue altogether. There are many a times that when I am in a meeting, I can hear the little ones at home screaming, or the spouse cooking in the kitchen, where you can hear that, okay, it's cooking time, where the pressure, the cooking, what is that? The pressure cooker is making all kinds of sound. So the environment that you were having earlier to the environment that you have now are way different. Cooperation, cooperating the system, which is very, very difficult now. We meet people virtually just for a period of time. After that, there is no way. You don't feel like calling people often to say, how are you? How do I do this? Etc. etc. So it played a very, very important role earlier, and it still plays an important role in our life now. Coming to technology, oh wow, I never thought I would be doing a Zoom meeting like this. Doing a training or doing facilitating a session through a virtual one, never thought of it. But I've learned how to use the technology. That is what which has given us not just using the technology, but learning how to live with the glitches of it as well. So that is what I think has made a lot of difference in our lives. All these things have their effect on our lives. There are links. They are all interlinked with one another. They all have constraints, but there are a lot many possibilities for us to learn. We have become more creative. Things that we have never expected that we would do in our life, we're doing all those things. It's been 102 days that I have stepped out of the house. I never ever stayed home for more than 2 days. Now it is 102 days that I have not been out of the house. So I found a new plan for myself, and now started to understand what is it that is new normal for me. What was normal earlier has diminished. A new normal has set in for me. So what have we done? We don't have a crystal ball or a magic wand, but we have that one strength that is in any team, that is a vibrant team with their potential. So we now have created a world without walls. The new WWW, where chaos and bad are linked. Chaos and bad were linked earlier when the pandemic set in. But now we have realized that chaos is very, very different from bad. In the starting, whenever you spoke to anyone when the pandemic started, people kept saying that, oh my God, it is a chaotic scene. It's so bad, man. I cannot do it. But now we have understood what is chaos and what is bad. The next point that I would like to say is organized chaos and chaos is organized. Earlier, there were so many situations that we had where we felt that this organized chaos is what I have to deal with. But now, because most of the time we are working in isolation, we have actually organized it. The chaos is now organized. Then coming to professional development, it's a great opportunity for this platform to be connected with the world. Again, a world without any walls. I could never ever imagine without this platform that I would be connected with you. There is still the development that is taking place. thank you to the organization which has thought about it, that they could create this platform for all of us to be connected. Crisis adaptation. Now, we have very smoothly started to adapt crisis in our life. All of us have gone through crisis, but all of us together going through the crisis, I think this is the first time. We all have different departments, but yet we now stand together to face this. So when the word pandemic hit all of us, every one of us went through this process of revisiting our own thoughts. So I request all the leaders right across, even if you're not a leader for a big department, you are a leader on your own. You need to rally your team or yourself about what you want to do for your future. Now, how does that start? Within your virtual meetings, there's a lot of agreement in a disagreement and a disagreement in an agreement. Let me give you an example. Now, what is agreement in disagreement? When two members of the team members do not want to work in the same process, there is a disagreement. So you as a leader, you're focused only about what needs to be expected. So there is a disagreement in your team members, but you as a leader, you have agreed to that situation. No matter about how you want to work, I want to see the result. When you talk about disagreement in an agreement, there are different methods of doing it. So your team members have actually understood that there is an agreement between all three of you, that is both team members with the leader, that we have to achieve the target, irrespective of the disagreements that we have. I continue on to talk about World Without Walls. This is a virtual platform, and this is going to be a part of our life for longer period of time. We probably will be able to identify ourselves more through this virtual world. When we see one another, maybe you might not be able to recognize one another. The other day, I was joking with one of my friends that, would you remember how I look outside the camera? Well, jokes apart, we are going to be in this virtual world for a longer period of time. But don't forget that what are those real facts? What are those facts of our lives? We are somebody who cannot move away from those facts. This brings me on to the next point, thinking. This word is so near and dear to me because we are those species, the most intelligent species on the surface of the earth, who can think not just about ourselves, but also about every other thing on the earth. We are the super intelligence who can learn about what is inside the body and outside the body. So we are able to learn anything and everything about the world inside us and world outside us. We also know how to explore. Once the bug of thinking catches you, you are ready for your exploration. Once you start to explore, you achieve a certain intelligence, or your intelligence in terms of learning increases, where you can come back to give your thoughts a visualization, which then needs to be learned, explained, translated. Not to forget, with the anticipation of what else. I'm not talking about politics, nor I am a big fan of any politician, but one of the politicians has always been on this journey of saying, what next? That is the drive. That is the drive. I would like to share a small little story with you, and I'm sure most of you know this story. A person has a donkey with him, and the donkey happens to fall into a pit. It struggles to come out. The man tries to pull it out, then realizes that, why should I save a donkey which is already old? I'd rather put mud on it and let the donkey sleep. So he took the help of his friends and started to pour mud into the pit. Then what did the donkey do? It thought, it explored, it gave itself a visualized step, anticipating that this man is going to do something, took the advantage of taking one step at a time. Whatever the mud that was being put into it, it stood on the new bundle or new small little portion of the soil and finally came out. So all of us here are going through this process of thinking, exploring, visualizing, and with the anticipation, we're trying to fix problems for our we are trying to fix our problems with good solutions. So our journey of leadership continues. Now, what I want you all to do is get a paper and a pen, and I'm going to show you the titles of some stories that you must have read when you were kids or must have read it for your children. All right? I'm going to show you the title of the story. I'm going to wait for you to write the leadership lesson that you could probably learn from it. All right? Let's go through the journey. And you all have only 30 seconds. I shall give you the answer, but see how many of you could actually understand this particular story of Panchatantra in the way that you are supposed to as a leader. Are we ready? There we go. I explained to you all this, and then here we go. The first one. The monkey and the crocodile, and your time starts now. You get 30 seconds.
Participants, you can type it in the chat box. Whatever your answer is, you can type it into the chat box.
Thank you, Ms. Gayatri. Okay, there we go. What's the leadership lesson? This is the lesson that we learned from this story. The monkey and the crocodile, and I'm sure most of you remember this. Keeping calm in difficult situations. Okay, let's go to the next one. I hope you're finding it interesting. The boy who cried wolf. You can again write it in the chat box if you wish to.
Sorry to interrupt here. I'm Nirmala. Durga, can we make a little more extension of the time? Probably you could give them 1 minute because we will have answers in the chat box where we can review them too. You could pick
Sure,
one or
ma'am.
two. Thank
Sure,
you so
ma'am.
much.
Answers that are coming up are act according to situation, proper planning, faith.
Now, that is good. That's good. We'll wait for
Maybe,
another.
you know, they even need a little background of what the story is.
Okay, the boy who cried wolf. This is the boy who tried to, scream out unnecessary while the parents are away working in the farms, that the wolf is here to take away the or to attack the sheep that he had, or to hurt him. So he keeps screaming unnecessarily. So finally, when the wolf comes and he starts to scream again, parents think that he's just lying, and then they ignore it. That's the story. Okay, there we go. If you have somebody in your team who kind of tells lies, that he or she can fix it, can survive with that false only for a short period of time. So you as a leader, this is another lesson that you can learn, that anybody who lies, they only find respite for a very short period of time. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the third one. The crow and the water pitcher. This is a crow which feels thirsty and wanted to have the water from a pitcher, but the water is right at the bottom. So it picks up the pebbles, drops it into the pitcher, and when the water comes up, drinks it. This is the story behind. Okay, and we shall wait for answers to come in.
Perseverance, praise,
Okay.
strategy, creative thinking, adaptation.
That's interesting.
Nothing is impossible, self-belief,
Oh, wow.
smart work,
Lovely. It's good.
common sense,
Aha, that's good.
intelligence, lateral thinking, utilizing available resources,
Very good. We're almost there for a minute.
hard work. Yes, ma'am, I think you can go ahead.
Okay. You can absolutely surprise yourself. I surprised myself that I can use a computer or laptop. So we have been surprising ourselves that we can explore much more beyond. And I'm not just talking here as a leader, but I'm talking to you as a human being. So your answers are really overwhelming. Excellent. Let's go for the last one. I know you're enjoying this challenge. You're enjoying this storytelling, but I think we need to progress. So this is the last one for you. The Lion and the Hare. You remember the hare, the lion says, I'm going to eat you away. And the hare says that there is another lion inside a well, and takes him there. The lion jumps, looking at its shadow in the well, and loses its life. And the hare comes out as a happy one. I'm not giving away the important words there, sorry, but this is the storyline for it.
Ego kills,
Okay.
presence of mind, overcoming challenges, intelligence, survive,
Wow.
empathy. Somebody writes empathy, rivalry.
Empathy. Okay.
Size of enemy does not matter.
Well, good.
Emotional intelligence.
Wow.
Physical strength does not matter.
Very good. Very good.
Positive thinking.
Okay, ma'am. I'm progressing from here.
Yes.
Okay. Intelligence is far more important than physical strength. So I think my audience here started to like. So there is a progression that we have seen for ourselves from the first story to the fourth story. We've got a grip of it. We were enjoying it. But I have to unfortunately stop you here from that little bit of an enjoyment. I know I took you back into your childhood, but I'm now bringing you back to a more serious note. Now, all that I'm saying from here is what I've read, I've studied, and this is my comprehension. The reason why I'm saying that this is my comprehension and this is my title is we started with pandemic leadership to now talk about pandemic test for leadership. Okay. Now, none of us have actually gone through any kind of crisis collectively. So this is a study which has been done by various universities across the world. So this is something that you draw your thinking, because there is nothing as a hard and fast rule. The leadership that we are talking about, the qualities or the traits of the leadership continue, but the facet of it, the phase of it differs, and it is more adapted now with empathy, sensitivity, and more sensibility. And that is what I feel really changed our vision for our lives. Now, you being a leader, you have been visible to your people. Now, you're visible virtually only for a certain period of time. And this does have an impact on people who have been used to looking at you constantly, at least for those 6-7 hours. When you go back, there could be a set of people who might see you every day. There could be somebody who might not come in contact with you at all, still working virtually. But you still need to be visible for them. We will tease it out a little bit more. The second one is updates that you send to your people. The third being transparency. We're going to take each one of this and tease out a little bit more. The fourth one is the act with urgency. Somebody might have a question. Urgency? Why? And respond. Let's take the first one. Be visible. You are visible virtually, as we said earlier, and you are going to be physically present as well. You know, sometimes what happens is you get used to somebody or your boss being with you only during that meeting and not standing behind you on your shoulder, constantly observing you. It used to happen. Now it's not happening because it's a virtual one, and it can happen once you go back. So there could be somebody who's saying, oh my God, not again. So when you have changed your pattern, not standing on the shoulder continuously, continue to do it so, because probably that team member of yours has gained the strength, has gained the confidence. So it's not necessary that you stand before them. The next one is discussions. Discussions, there is a difference between I think and I believe. Discussion is a process of I'm thinking. So when people tell you that I think, that means that that's still a process going on. So in your discussions, there should be more vocabulary which is relevant to thinking, whether it's a virtual or whether you're going to be physically present. Now, don't forget, not very soon that you're going to have everybody physically present in front of you to have discussions. So people who are virtually present, people who are physically present in front of you, you need to have a more constructive dialogue, because the virtual set of meeting is going to be only timed on a time scale. So you need to be very conscious about what vocabulary that you use now in a discussion, because you cannot keep coming back and forth about those discussions. It can prolong, it can go to the next step, but don't start once again from the base. So think about it wisely, because you're a leader. Don't forget that. Decision making. When you're making a decision, you will say that I believe that this is what we are going to do. So there's a difference between discussion and decision making. Discussion is I think this is possible. When you're discussing, it's not necessary that everything is possible, but that decision that you have made, you need to go away to say that I believe in this because we collectively decided about this. So when you have made a decision collectively with the consideration of all your team members, hold on to it, because people who are physically present in front of you may understand that there is a small little change. But people who are virtually elsewhere will not know the change that you have made in your decision. So the understanding of the decision really matters. So please be thoughtful. From I think journey to I believe journey, you have passed from one stage to another, and you need to be very, very, very clear about that. Social health, this is again very important one. You might socially not meet one another, but you as a leader, you know that it is your responsibility to ensure that you are in contact with your team members at least once in 3 days, 4 days or so. Find out what is happening. I'm sure you're all doing it. Empathy has taken over our life. It has conquered us to a large extent. Let it keep rolling. Not necessarily that I'm meeting you, so I don't have to ask you. So what is the shift that we have made is we have become more social, at least in the virtual way. Keep continuing to do it so even when you go back. And then the mental health. Now, this is a very, very important one for me because I am somebody who's staying away from my family, say in case I'm staying all alone and I do not have many friends outside the office. I'm really stuck. I do not have that many people to call because everybody that I know are from my work. So how do I keep my mental health? It is the leader's responsibility to ensure that you are ensuring that your team members are healthy mentally as well. If there is any need in terms of supporting the person, you have to walk that extra mile. You have to ensure, and I'm sure you're making that as well. So this is our first point, that is, we need to be visible. The second one is act with urgency. Again, as I said, you might be talking about act with urgency. Why? What is it which is making the difference? Now, urgency is a very subjective one. It's a very, very subjective one. So I'm putting all these points so that we can discuss about these things. Don't rush, but think ahead. Okay. Now, as we progress, you'll understand why am I saying urgency. Don't rush, but think ahead. No one is asking you for an action to be given or done immediately. But you always had an option of thinking ahead. Anticipation, this is what I was thinking about. Anticipating about what could be the repercussion of this. So if there is anything of that kind, you need to rush with the action. If, say, suppose there's somebody who's been out, not in contact with the family, there is definitely a problem there. The person has not been contacting anybody. There is a problem. So there is an urgency there. Not necessary that every time you press the panic button. I'm not saying it. But it is very subjective, and you have to realize, you can only realize it to yourself. No one else can. Reaching out to people in need. Again, it continues on the same lines. Set your alarm of reaction much before. Not necessary to press the panic button, but to anticipate and also think about an action plan. You have to think about it. If this happens, what would be the action? What should I do? You have to think much ahead. Your alarm needs to ring much ahead, and it still continues. as you are going to have two different scenarios from now on. One, a virtual, the second, physical. So you have to now do a dual role. What if the person is left at home or elsewhere? And what happens to the person in your presence in front of you? So you will have to react according to that. So act with urgency depending upon the situation. Very, very subjective. Now, delays can sometimes be more disastrous. Now, I call you and say, you know what, Ms. Gayatri, I need to speak to you. Ms. Gayatri might put, sorry, Ms. Gayatri, I have to take your name, but Ms. Gayatri would say, you know what, Durga, I'm a little busy. Can I call you back? Okay, no problem. Okay, when will you call me? Okay, I'll call you in about 2 hours. Is that okay? Oh, absolutely fine, ma'am. Knock the phone, put the phone down. I wait for 2 hours to get over because it is critical for me. 2 hours pass by, 4 hours, because Miss Gayatri forgot about me. She literally forgot about me. She never called me back because I have been waiting. If that is the situation, it can lead to any other action and reaction because the sensitivity of the situation is very, very different. So in case if you're not able to remember, please write it down somewhere that you have to call this member. It does not happen often, but even if one situation happens, I'm sure you do not want to face that disastrous situation. All of us are humans. We make mistakes. That's okay. But ensure that you go back, if not after 2 hours, at least after 4 to 6 or 8 hours, please. Now, the third point is transparency. I don't have to tell you more. Now, what I would like to emphasize here on transparency is your body language. Now, this is a virtual medium, right? Now, I can always hide my emotions. I'm angry. I'm irritated about the situation, but I might be counting my fingers under the table, which was visible, slightly visible for you earlier, but you can't see my body language here. I'm frustrated. You can't see that. I'm sad. You can't see that much. So keep an ear, eye open, so that you can hear what people are saying, right? Your body language really matters. Simple thing. When people are back in the office, half of them are with you, half of them are not there. Somebody might feel that, am I not so important that you're asking me not to come? That's enough to change the body language. Communication. I don't have to emphasize, you're leaders. You know how to have the transparency in communication. If the government is telling us that there are only 2 deaths in a particular country, you would question, with the population of this size, do you think only 2 deaths? I don't think so. So when there is no transparency from the leadership team itself, not with exaggeration, but with facts, when you have the facts, I'm sure people will receive and work along with you. When there is no fact given to them and they believe that, how is that possible? One question in their mind about how is that possible takes away that word of transparency. Ma'am, can I continue?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, there was a temporary disturbance. Yes,
Okay.
please.
No worry, no worries. Now, clarity in your vision. Clarity in your vision is basically what is going to happen when people are going to come back. Now, simple thing, half of the 30% is going to come back to the office and the remaining 70% is working from home. There should be clarity of your vision about what is this 30% doing, what is this 70% doing. Clear, stepwise. There is no interference. There's no shying away. You do what you have to do. There is a difference, as I said earlier, when you were discussing and when you're making a decision. There is that difference. So I need to have a clarity as your team member that what am I expected to do? And what is it that you want me to do? How do you want me to do? So these are very clear instructions that you have to have. Now, corrections for mistakes made, that's okay. If somebody had made any mistakes, all of us are humans, we make mistakes. Instead of shooting the gun from somebody's shoulder, that's okay. Accept it. Let's progress. No blame game, no shooting from others, no kind of defensive mechanism, straightforward. Mistakes happen. Let's move together. Suspended activities with reason. Now, you must have called off some activity or some club or some particular project. I, as your team member, I have a right to know why that has been suspended. Sometimes we take it for granted. Oh, that's okay. People will understand. No preconceived ideas. Give me everything in black and white. Tell me that it's been suspended for this particular reason. Also tell me if you're launching something new. There are new activities, but you have to tell me what is this all about and give me the guidelines. Sometimes what happens is there's a circular which has been issued that submit this particular sheet of paper or the form, and it goes into the pile of papers or piles of mails that you get, and it's a forgotten issue. But if you have this clarity of saying it, reiterating it time and again, whenever there is necessity, don't overboard them. But when there is a new activity, ensure that you share it with everybody. Coming on to response, it needs to be productive, addressing the issues productively. I'm sure you all know, stepwise. Again, I'm repeating the same thing when you're responding. No blames, no defense, ownership. Now, ownership is where we are talking about who is responsible for what. If somebody is stamping on somebody's toes, please be very careful about addressing those issues. When you have a combination of physical and virtual world, there is a possibility of overboarding the situation. There could be an overwhelming situation for somebody else. So please be very, very conscious about what is happening and who is the owner of this particular project or objective. Now, the next one is staying focused. No matter how many mistakes we do, no matter about how much percentage of people are coming to the office, how many are working from home, what are the new strategies, etc., etc., etc. Don't move away from the goals that you have set for yourself, for your department, as well as for your organization or university. There are so many people here across who are from university teaching and learning as well. Well, people, we are not just responsible for the employees or students, but we are responsible for not just the students or the employees, but we are responsible for students, and it continues on to parents. So our community of work is much, much, much bigger than any other normal, regular firms or companies. So universities, schools, organizations, educational organizations, we have a mammoth task in front of us. And ownership is one thing that is automatically given to us because parents point out, students point out, your employees point out, saying that it is you and you and you, not to forget the management as well. So stay focused on what you are supposed to do. The last one in the list is engage with content updates. Now, when you're talking about updates, as I said earlier, be very honest. I'm not saying that you have to tell everybody what's the budget that you have got and how much you have spent. Nobody is asking you about the physical budget, but your information should be honest in terms of telling us what went right, what did not go well. If there is something which did not go well, tell us the reason why it did not go well. You don't have to blame that it's because of Durga it did not happen. You can always say, well, this did not go well because of this. Let's correct it. We can always go back to look at it. So no worries, be honest, and everything will fall into its place. Now, engaging. When you're talking about engaging, you remember I said, I think and I believe. You cannot keep telling me all the time without telling me what you're thinking as, I believe this is what needs to be done. I believe is taking away that engagement from me. You're not engaging me in the construction of the department or the organization. You're only giving me instructions. I'm not a participant there. I'm just a follower. I sometimes don't like just following you. I want to give you my inputs. So that is what is needed. So engagement continues, and it also continues. If you're having a meeting with physically present people or a department and another department is not there, don't you think they're going to actually share information? They are going to share the information. So there is something like, well, this did not come in our conversation. So just be conscious about how many people are responsible for it. Are they all engaged in this conversation or not? Then we're talking about constant, consistent is the mantra. Even if we are talking about productivity, even if we are talking about progress, even if we are talking about failure, we have to ensure that we are honest and we have to show that we are constantly working on it. We cannot go away to say that, okay, we do it for once, that's okay, it's settled down, and then we move on. No, where there is no consistency, there is never a progress made by any company. Consistent in terms of what we have been doing to what we are supposed to do. Think constantly that I have to do it because these are the basic guidelines of our system. Then we are talking about stepwise. Again, I recommend stepwise approach for anything, any new. Sometimes age-old processes might have been forgotten by people because they are virtually working. So re-emphasize once again that this is what we were doing. Let's continue to do it. There is no harm. Once again, revise all that. So when you are giving your updates, ensure that you're giving them that stepwise as well. Then descriptive steps. Stepwise is one thing. Okay, we are doing step 1. There are 5 steps and we are doing this. But again, step 1 needs to be described. Step 2 needs to be described. If that is a new project, it's mandatory if it's a new project. Or if it's something that we have been doing, but of late you have seen somebody or 2 or 3 people making mistake, reiterate it. No worries. And reiteration. All right. Now, last one for me, and this is my way of putting what leadership is, whether we're talking about leadership of yesteryears or present or future. This stands the same. There is more emphasis that we have to lay on this in terms of understanding that there are 2 worlds that we have. The physical world that we have and another world that is world without walls, a virtual world. Be very conscious about these 2 to understand that leadership is all about you giving uttar. You are responsible to give this uttar. And what is that? This is uttar. What we have seen as visible, being visible, updating, transparency, act, and respond. You are definitely responsible for all these things. The more that you practice Uttar, your Uttar for any question by the management or anyone else is very satisfactory. You may not have answers for all, but you will have your insight with all these 5 elements. Thank you so much for listening. Ma'am, can I stop sharing?
Yeah, yes, sure, madam. Sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that wonderful presentation with very practical examples. And we are sure we will lead with VUTAF. We will. May I now invite Ms. Asma Unisa, Assistant Professor, Department of Corporate Secretaryship and Information Systems Management, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuhu and good evening to all. We have come to the end of the day 4 technical session on leadership excellence. I, on behalf of the management, principal and staff of Justice Bashir Ahmad Sayyed College for Women, Chennai, and on behalf of Guru Coaching and Consulting Qatar, I'm here to deliver the vote of thanks. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Almighty for His blessings for the smooth conduct of day 4 session. I extend my hearty thanks to our guest speaker, Mrs. Mauru Durga Shri, for excellent speech on effective leadership during and post-pandemic. We are all inspired by your great words, and it was really very energetic and motivating, ma'am. A very hearty thanks to our principal, Dr. Shahnaz Ahmed, for her guidance and support. I thank our vice principal, Dr. Firdaus Jahan, for her constant endeavor in the conduct of the program. I thank Dr. B. Barakat, Dean, Head of the Department, the person behind this International Faculty Development Program. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation to Ms. Nirmala Guru of Guru Coaching and Consulting, Qatar, for her collaboration with us for organizing this international FDP on leadership skills in this pandemic. I thank Dr. R. Gayatri, Assistant Head, CS and ISM Department, for her fruitful ideas and support. An event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling 2 weeks ago. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues. I thank the organizing team, faculties of CS and ISM department who are continuously working for the past 15 days virtually in front and behind the cameras for the smooth flow of this program. I thank the technical team for the technical support. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the participants from all over the globe for the enthusiastic participation throughout the session. Thank you all.
Ma'am, there are a couple of questions from the participants. Although the vote of thanks is over, I thought we should take it up. One by Dr. Amit Kashyap. He asks how to protect and secure ourselves from people who act like chameleons.
Okay. One thing that I would like to say, sir, here is when you have no control over others' reactions and actions, you better control your action and reaction. How people, you can only protect yourself with your action and reaction. What others say is immaterial. I would only say this. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. There's another question from Dr. C. Raghavan. He asks, is there any rule or principle that you would like to point out for effective leadership? A specific rule or a specific principle that you would like to point out?
Believe in yourself. Believe that what you are doing is in the interest of your people and your organization. Believing in oneself is the best mantra, because your heart will tell you. You know, it is said that the heart conceives the ideas, the head conceives the idea and heart creates it. So believe in yourself. Head conceiving and heart creation, the best mantra. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, there's another question from Tariko Birhano from Ethiopia. He asks, what should leaders learn from this COVID-19?
Coexistence, co-inhabitants of every individual. Earlier, as a leader, you were always thinking that I'm a leader who would walk in front. But it has taught us a bigger lesson where you will have to walk on the sides as well as in the center and at the back as well. There are many times as a leader, you must be wondering that, oh, I don't know how to operate this, or I don't know how to create the Excel. So it's all about co-inhabitants now. There is no specific role that, specific dynamics that you have to mention. It's all coexistence. Thank you, ma'am.
He also has one more question. He's asking, how would you describe your leadership style? What leadership style do you personally follow? Is the question that he asks.
I never ever followed one type of leadership, because if I am kind of stuck with one leadership style, I'm not a leader. Depending upon the situation, I need to keep wandering and wavering between every style of leadership. So if you are a leader, you will always think about the situation, very subjective to the situation. You keep changing your leadership style. So I would not recommend any particular one style of it. Thank you, ma'am.
One more question from Razia Farhat. She asks, what is a single quality leader should have to ensure compliance from the team?
You set yourself as an example. There's no other bigger mantra than that. I don't believe in role models, but I believe in setting myself as an example, at least for a few qualities. Because what you preach is what you have to follow. There is no other way in leadership that you expect others to follow when you are not doing it. I hope I answered that question, ma'am.
Ma'am. There is Sitaraman KS who asks, should a leader listen to his brain or mind? Maybe he meant the heart. Put forth your thoughts.
Again, there is no clear definitions. It's very, very subjective. When there is empathy involved, it is more of your heart which says. When sympathy is involved, it's more of your head which says. So you are constantly juggling. The distance between these two is very short, but it covers the whole world inside and outside for us. So I never imagined that the distance between the heart and the brain would be so long that it is covering the whole world around me. So there is nothing as a definite one.
Dr. Shama Ganjiwale, she asks, what is crisis leadership and what qualities must he or she have during a crisis?
Okay, as we said, we mentioned about this VUTAF. This is a standard one, not necessary that you're a leader at your work. You're a leader at home as well. So you need to be there with all these 5 qualities. Only then you can actually progress as a leader, because you're working on these 5 aspects with your brain and your heart, with your mind and your heart. You know, it's very ironical when people say that, don't you have brain? That's a very anatomical one. But when you say, I do have a mind to think, then you're talking about the abstractness, because all your feelings are very abstract. So you have to work with your mind and heart.
Ma'am, there's a question from Mr. Muhammad Ali. He asks, how to overcome the fear of being a leader?
How to overcome?
The fear of being a leader.
How to overcome a fear of leader?
Of being a leader.
First thing, if you have accepted to be a leader, you should have already left it long ago behind you that, you know, I'm not a risk taker. You are a risk taker. That's the reason that you're a leader now. Why are you thinking about going back? You should be progressing further. Leadership is all about taking risk. You are creating something. If you're just following somebody, you would be called as a manager, not as a leader. So as a leader, you've already taken that risk. So don't go back. You're on the right path. Go ahead. Don't have any fear. That's okay if you fail. You will learn and then progress. I hope I answered you, sir.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes. I think the rest of the questions are pretty repetitive. There is another person, I'm not able to get the name of the person, he or she, I don't even know. He asks, how to handle people who do not like or respect the leader?
Okay. You need to understand that there is a history for that person to, or people to be acting and reacting that way. First, you need to identify what is that action, what is that story behind, what is the history. If you know the history, you will automatically learn about what were the steps which were missing. You need to cash on those particular steps for you to establish that trust, for you to ensure that the person understands what you're saying. So maybe investing a little bit more of a time and your energy in understanding that person first, and then delegating some work for them. See, when I say delegation, I've read somewhere that the present situation leaders should be thinking about at least 10 to 20% of their week's time. They should be thinking about new ideas, exploring, for visualizing and anticipating. This 10 to 20% is for the creative part of it. The same way you need to have at least 10 to 20% of it to understand people of your team. So once you invest the time on your team, I'm sure there is no turning back.
Ma'am, there's one interesting question by Nandi Priyanka. She says, I've become a leader at a very young age. But then how do I take care of all the seniors and elder people in the group when they come up with criticisms of everything that I do, is what she asks.
As a leader, you will always have that criticism as a part of your life. Okay? And never think leadership is based on seniority. Leadership should and be understood based upon the capacity and the capability of the person. If you've been entrusted as a leader in the organization, a position of leader in your organization, that means that there is some spark that your management or your boss must have seen in you. Right? That's the first one. Why is it that another senior person has not been put into place? Because there's something which was not working with that person. So again, spend that little bit of time to understand what is the resistance. Is the resistance all about age? If that is the case, approach the senior person saying that, can we discuss about it? Get the person onto your side. You will get more strength. You will learn more a lot. So get that senior colleague of yours, the so-called senior experienced colleague of yours, onto your side by having a private conversation, discussing some of the issues. You know, the senior so-called people like me, say, for example, who are much senior to you, say, for example, I go out and say, you know what, she discussed about this item, this particular agenda with me. Oh, wow. So you're giving me importance. You're bringing me onto your side. But don't forget, that was only a discussion. When it is a decision-making time, you're the one who's going to take the lead. Hope I answered your question.
Oh, yes, ma'am. There is one Mr. Chokkalingam. He asks, what should a leader do? Should he be following strategy or policy?
Okay, when is a policy written? Policy is written anticipating that there is something which is not going to be going well with the organization. So that this is the action plan that we have for policy. Policies are set for organization to work smoothly. You are following the policy only when it is a maintenance process. When you are a managerial in the managerial process. But when you are a leader, you have to think about the policy and think about the loopholes in the policy. As a leader, when you identify those loopholes in the policy, you kind of try to fix it so that another leader or a manager will not once again raise an issue that you have raised. So I would say leaders don't follow most of the time, whereas managers follow. Leaders create, staying in the parameters. So you are a leader and a manager. Manager for the maintenance process, leader for a creative process. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes. Ma'am, from the live YouTube streaming, we have one question by Vaishnavi Devi. She asks, is there any qualitative phenomenon to enhance the qualities of an ordinary person and make him into a strong leader?
I have not come across any such kind of, um, a rigorous monitoring system about who is the best leader or who is an effective leader, who is the leader who had the charisma. I think the leadership concept itself summarizes a human life. You cannot equate it with one or two or three categories. You are a human who lives as a leader in some aspects, as a manager in some aspects where you're just following. It's the same thing at home. You come home and you ask people, what do you want me to cook? That's a managerial post that you're just following. Acha, ek dal bana liye, one dal, one sabzi, and then you're done. So what you're doing is a managerial one. But if you are coming home and saying, I'm making this today, I'm making noodles today, that's a leadership. So there is that kind of evaluation constantly that you're making with yourself, not about someone else. You're constantly evaluating yourself as a leader about what was I and what am I today as a leader. You're a competition for yourself. Don't believe in, I personally don't believe in any valuation. Yes, appraisal systems are there in organizations. Appraisal systems give you a boost to say that, well, according to the company, you're doing this. You still have to work about this. That's fine. Those are all very subjective. But this journey of brain and heart is very, very, very quick, but very late as well. So I go with that. I don't know if I've answered her question, but I believe that, there is nothing as somebody measuring you. You measure for yourself.
Ma'am, there's another question from Udaya Sinha Patil, who's asking, can you differentiate between an accepted leader and a generated leader?
Accepted leader and a generated
I think they are asking positional leadership and leaders accepted in general. For example, Gandhi was accepted as a leader. So that is the question, I think, ma'am.
Yeah. These are very subjective one. If I don't have say if I am in the team and you are the best person that I have seen as somebody who has been practicing best things, I would take you as my leader and I will nominate you. Right? So it's very subjective. I cannot, I've been in leadership positions for, I don't know, n number of years. But every time that I've come across in an appraisal system, my mentor or my appraiser didn't have anything to tell me because I had all the evidences for my work. I had evidences to show progress. I had evidences to show attainment and achievements. So when you have all these things clear in your mind, you're working 2 steps ahead in terms of your thinking. You remember I was talking about anticipating and working forward, it will take you. So there is no definition of made up leaders and groomed leaders. We're all leaders. It is how you educate yourself. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I think I have asked you. Uma, there's one last question from Uma. She asks how to handle a very dominant person who also happens to be the leader or the boss.
Okay, there are many situations, 1 minute, ma'am. There are many situations that leadership is not understood by people well. They always misquote the definition of leadership as authoritative leadership only. Now, when a person is very authoritative and you are not able to adjust to it, one, ensure that you go to another project, another department, if that is not possible. whatever that your leader says, just follow that path. Get out of the situation, but ensure that you're growing yourself laterally, because of late you realize that an authoritative leader, as I said earlier, you cannot change the thoughts of others. So when you have an authoritative leader constantly standing on your shoulder, there is not much of creativity that you can do, you can bring in. So ensure that you don't go into a tiff, don't argue, you follow what is being given, but educate yourself to another way to come out of the situation. Maybe educate yourself. If you're in a particular stream, ensure that you take a parallel project with that. There is no answer for this, because you have no control over your emotions. How can you control others? So
Thank
there's
you,
no
madam.
answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I think we have come to the close of the session, the end of the session. There's one last comment that I think we all agree on, which we would like to share with you. There is one Supriya. She says, ma'am, you are so expressive, so full of positivity, and your inputs are so true. So yes, each and every one of us here agree with you. Thank you so much, Durga ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And I'm
Thank you so
happy
much.
to be here. There's so much that I could share in this platform. I would really appreciate if you could convey my regards to the organization and everyone around. It's my pleasure and my fortune that I'm here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We will communicate whatever has been told to us. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. And participants, I think by this time you should have got your feedback link. The feedback link is posted in the chat box. Please ensure that you fill all the 7 days feedback to get your certificates. And Nirmala, can we please have the banner up again once more? There are requests, they want details.
Oh, ma'am. Coming right away.
Yes, please. No problem. I can see participants asking if it's okay if they have missed one session, what they must do. Yes, missing one session feedback form is perfectly fine. It's okay. But please ensure that all the other feedback forms are filled. If you haven't filled one day's feedback, it's fine. All the other days feedback, please ensure that they get filled. And yes, you have to fill all the feedback form in order to get the certificate. Participants, the session is over. If you have filled the feedback form, I request you to please leave the session. We will meet tomorrow again at 4:50 for yet another interesting session. So please be there at 4:50 tomorrow. There is one person here, participant, who says that he has missed the second day's session. It is perfectly fine, sir. I think if you are there in the Telegram group, then the session is being posted there. It is being posted there. So please ensure that you join the Telegram group. Okay, Mr. Praveen, I would request you to please contact Mrs. Karpagam. I think you would have received an invitation mail from one Mrs. Karpagam. Please contact her. She will help you with connecting with this Telegram group, all these things she will resolve. Jabina Sheikh also, please ensure you contact Karpagam. She will help you with the Telegram group. The numbers are there in the letter that you received.